This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees to order on Tuesday, October 15th. And first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And before I call for a motion on that, I would like to, let me think about this. No, yeah, it was, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Greg. Malavika, second. Okay, thank you very much. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? I'd like to call out one particular item here in regard to the approval of the agenda. You should have an agenda, new agenda at your place. Particularly, this includes one item of new business, and this is the agenda that was posted for the public in advance of 24 hours as required by the open meetings law. The item that was added was in item 4, new business, A, to approve the CIP requests for fiscal year 2021 to 2026. That was inadvertently left off. So this is the SEM agenda, as I said, that was posted. And so with that change to that agenda item, Craig, is your motion okay with that?
Yes.
Be amended that way? And Malavika? Okay,
Yes,
thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second to approve the amended consent agenda, including the amended agenda. So with that, if there's no further discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public with comment. Seeing and hearing no one, move on to the next item, reports. Friends, Laura?
Good afternoon. Happy middle of October. We've had a good month for the Friends. So we've had some, I'm trying to remember, I should probably be taking notes, but in the last month, off the top of my head, I can think of $5,000 from Cobham that we received for the capital campaign, $15,000 from Wells Fargo. Steve and I we had previously announced this, but we had a official presentation of the check from Mid-American, which was for $25,000. So we're about a third of the way on our fundraising efforts. We did decide that we are not going to do a Friends fundraiser for the capital campaign yet in 2019. We were initially thinking that we would be nearing the public phase here in the fall, and so that we would have a fundraising event that would be a kickoff and bring people in, and we're not quite ready for the public phase. The timing is a little tight, and we want to make sure that whatever we do well. And honestly, we're not an organization that does a ton of events, so we don't want to stretch our capacity or perhaps use up all of our good ideas or the good surprise before we're, ready. What else did I want to share? We're still going through, a lot of governance transformation. So we did, we finally ratified or approved, nominated, voted, ratified, I don't know which word we want to use, for our officers, because we were having difficulty meeting quorum for a couple months, so we have that set. I shared at the last meeting that we had finalized our investment policy statement. We're now working on our bylaws to clean that up, and we have a committee on that. So just kind of trying to make sure that governance is real tight and clean.
QC Beats funding?
Oh, yep, we're gonna be funding QC Beats again, and we're gonna have some representatives at the event. So just, continuing to support important programming. But I've got.
Is there a time set for that yet, for the event?
There is, and I think is it mid-November?
It's mid-November.
It's after the 11th of November.
Okay. Plenty of time then to get ready for that one. Thank you.
Yeah, they're gonna help us be jurors for the music that's selected. So they'll be part of the selection process, as well as funding 5 of those musicians for their honor.
And giving them the honorarium stipend of $100 each.
Yeah.
It's gonna really be life-changing.
Hey, you never know. Yeah, so if,
No, but I mean, it's a nice token of support, it's nice to involve the community, it's nice to get new sounds out and have the library be helping facilitate all that.
yeah, so if you haven't looked at QC Beats, you can find that online, and interesting collection of local artists. Maybe we'll see it in the big time someday. Good, okay, thank you, Laura. Next item, committee reports. Tom's not here, so nothing for finance yet anyway. Personnel, anything to say?
We'll be doing the evaluation today during
Yeah.
the closed session if that's requested, so.
Thank you. Advocacy, Malavika?
No report, but I wanted to share something. ESL classes that we have, English is foreign language classes. One of our common, I did not know she was a common contact, Bill, and my common contact let me know about this and what was happening. And so I kind of shared that information with my people at Ambrose and international studies and things like that. So they are planning to have a little, little bus together and go for those sessions, hopefully starting now. I don't know exactly when. So that was a good thing that, I had no idea that we do that. So that was a good thing to get to know. So I shared with that. For a social event, I did not know that, but I happened to, because I talked and I happened to know that was sitting next to me was the KSI CEO. He's a cop, and we got talking and common interest and things like that. So I talked about our outreach department, fantastic things we do, etc. And then exchanged my email with her, and she contacted back and shared their member, the member activities coordinator and all that. So I have passed on that information to Brittany if, she has anything to do
Yeah,
with
excellent.
it. Another thing was National Friends of the Libraries Week is October 20th to 26th, 2019. And I'm sorry I talk so much of library all the time. Maybe working in a library and managing their social media makes me read all this. So sorry, it's more of library outside and inside that comes up. And I was, Marion, going to send, and I stopped, send an invitation to the city council and the mayor to come watch Public, the movie, which we showed at Easton, but realized later, which Steve, you reminded me of it, while we were talking, that it was during the day of the city council meeting. But I would certainly suggest, there's a lovely book, it does say a guide to librarians for homelessness. It's basically a guide for all of us. I read that book, and I would certainly say that if we can make time and have the public viewing of the Public with you all. It's an excellent movie, and I feel all of you who help us with public library funding, etc., would be absolutely great. And if we cannot make it, I think we have 6 copies of that in the library to be checked out.
I actually mentioned that event at city council
Right.
because it was, I think I mentioned it the week before.
Yeah.
But So that was one of the things I included in my.
Thank you. Thank you.
So-
No, thank you. This was it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Melody. Director reports, is there anything to questions, or maybe you have anything to add?
Well, I did want to kind of tie on to Melody's report for advocacy and thank her for her efforts. We've been working on replacing the big banner out front for Maine's 50th anniversary with a banner that simply says welcome in as many languages as we can find and accurately portray. So Malavika has been really helpful sharing that with her folks to make sure that what we share is accurate, and is the right way to say that within all the whole variety of cultures that we want to feel welcome here at the library. So we've been working hard to make sure that it's taken a long time to make sure that we are accurate. So Malavika's really been helpful.
Maybe
with
you
that.
could add like, I don't know if there's one in Star Trek that's.
No.
It's a little, to see if
There's
people catch
probably
it.
Klingon.
To see if people, yeah, see if people catch it.
I'll go Rocky, maybe.
See if you can find a little legend.
Oh,
I don't know if there's room for how much space it would take, but perhaps it's the way to do it in American Sign Language.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So other than that, so one thing that's on here is really not quite accurate anymore. So I had midway down where we had been speaking with Roxanna Moritz, the Scott County auditor. And our staff invited her to a program about voting registration, those kinds of things. And we had wanted to offer voter registration as part of a program, so we were, wondering about that. It sounded so simple that our immediate thought was, we hand out the form, the patron returns the form to us, filled out, and we just need to get the form to the auditor's office in 72 hours. And that sounds pretty simple. I checked with the city risk department and city legal department, and they are really not in favor of doing that. They feel that voter registration is such a hot button issue right now that the fact that we're not checking any IDs, which is not the responsibility of the person taking that, it's the auditor's office responsibility, that there's gonna be something that says, hey, the library's just taking willy-nilly anyone and you can turn in 20 different registration forms, kind of thing. So they're concerned about that PR risk. And then they're also concerned that there will be somebody who says, well, I went to vote and they didn't have my registration and I dropped it at the library and now I'm not being allowed to vote. And they were very concerned about the need for city legal department to defend us against those kinds of things.
I had a question about that. Being a trooper of getting absentee requests and doing voter registration at the same time, which is what I do when I go out and campaign. Would it be the same risk if the librarians or someone at the reception desk, it takes literally 2 minutes to fill them out. And you're right, I am not responsible if somebody, lies, on their registration. So I don't, so would there be less risk for you if you said, come in and you can fill it out here and we'll turn it in? That might be less risk because then the person is there. It's not dependent on someone going out, collecting and bringing them in.
Right, but that's what we proposed.
But that really, like I take everyone in, I do. So everything I do, all the absentee ballots, and I do a lot, I take in, I carry them in every day. If I've done them the day before they go in. So I'm handing them in. I'm still not responsible. It's still ultimately the voter. But if you said, and then maybe you don't want to take this on, and I understand that, if you said, come in and you can fill it out here and we'll get it in, is different than saying rather than being a second party, so say, the way you were talking about it, people take an absentee request, they come back with 20 and you are bringing it in. If you're letting people fill it out here, and I don't know, maybe you don't.
Yeah, that's what we had intended to do, was like,
right.
Here's the form, fill it out and hand it to us.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, see why they're.
So we're gonna get in contact again with the auditor's office to see if maybe they'd be willing to just put some sort of a sealed box at our locations where we have the form available. We
Right.
say, hey, fill it out, stick it in this box, and the auditor's office is responsible for picking those up.
Right.
And we can't get at it. So we're
That
trying to
might
work our
help.
way
That
around
might be
that. I
good.
mean, all we're trying to do is facilitate something, but I think we have to pay attention to what city legal is
Because
concerned about as well.
thing that was interesting is I talked to Humanity of Married folks and like, are you registering? Are you encouraging? Are you offering it? Not encouraging, because that is wrong.
Right.
But are you, it's not wrong, but are you making it available and saying, do you know this is available? And they're really not. So you may reach some people that, and if you are without an address, you can still register to vote, and there's a slot for that. And if you can register to vote, and you can register yourself to vote, and you can do an absentee ballot. There's both things are available to you. So, and so that population doesn't see, and I'm not criticizing, they do many things, for the people, but I don't think that population's being really reached. much here, so.
Yeah, we just figured the easier we make it for people to register, the more participation we get, which is just good. I mean,
Right.
the participation in the council primaries was just not very outstanding, so.
Yeah.
just-
I personally got more
Increase that.
absentee ballots than some entire wards had, like by multiples. Like some had less than 100 in the entire ward. So, and if you're looking at people who don't vote often, or people who can't get there, or they're elderly, or for whatever reason,
Transportation issues.
yeah, transportation, so, yeah, it was not very well, it wasn't very well done.
So, I think that is about it. I mentioned that I went to ILA, the Iowa Library Association Conference in November, and then I'm also going to be attending an American Library Association event, November 7th and 8th. In Tulsa, it's for library directors only on new initiatives in library services. We're working to start kind of gathering ideas and things like that, in knowing that there's a strategic plan coming up in 2020 that we need to either update or do a new one. So, that's it.
Any questions? Move on. Council liaison, Mary?
It's fairly quiet right now at council. I did want to particularly thank the library for being such a great party in the park. Supporter and advocate in doing that. It was, a thing we tried. I think it went well. We had, at most of them, really great turnout and very neighborhood oriented turnout. And, people said things, gee, I haven't been in this park in a long time, and all of that. So I think, it really did help. And thank you for being such a supporter. There seems to be some talk about doing this again next year. Hopefully we'll have a little more advance. And I'm sure we'll have a post-op on how to go, what we could have done, and we'll certainly invite partners to be a part of that. So I want to thank you for that. I wanted to mention something in the effort of, transparency. There is something on the city council agenda this week that kind of popped up. Well, we get the agenda on the weekend, and I was looking through it, and I'm like, so there's some things there's some things that talks about boards and commissions, which I was, we went through a whole discussion of changes to the new zoning code, and it was very many pages. And like I said, where's a markup? Why are we looking? I mean, to try to compare what's there. So I asked, I emailed and said, I expect to see a markup of this. And so anyway, it's just something that I didn't know was coming up. And so we have a markup now, and that's what I'm going to always expect to have when staff is asking for changes that are multi-page on something. And I think that's good for the public and everybody. So in any case, I don't know where any of this is going to go. We have a management update meeting today. I've talked to a couple of aldermen. They're kind of like, what? So that's kind of, I can't speak for them, but.
Is that in the agenda what the changes are going to be?
It is, well,
Is it on the council agenda yet?
I now have a marked up version,
Oh,
so. Which I'm like, I just, when we make changes at city council, it's just always not whether, there's frequently good reasons and, but there's lots of different things in this. And when there's lots of different things, I think a wiser way is to send a markup out so that as, I'm flying through an agenda and sometimes there's many, many things on it. It's nice to, if it has to do with voting on something that's changing an ordinance. So I don't know if that will, but I'm sure that will come up. Today's management update meeting. So I just wanted to let you know, because there was some part of it talking about boards and commissions, so.
Okay. I'll pay attention to that right on there.
Okay. That's really all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, next item is new business. First item under new business is motion to approve the CIP request for fiscal year 2021 and 2026. That item was in your packet, so that.
And one of those did not have a a dollar amount attached to it, and so we do have an estimate now.
Yeah, the Fairmont River.
There it is.
Yeah, mine, it's on the back.
Yep.
No, yeah.
So these are, some of these are CIP projects that fall under library. And some of them are, gets a little more wishy-washy. Sometimes they're facilities maintenance, but they relate to the library. There's been some turnover in Public Works, kind of right as this was happening. So I checked with the CIP manager for the city and then said, well, if we want to add the Fairmont roof replacement, who do I go through at the city to do that, or should we do it ourselves to make sure that it gets on there? And he recommended that we add it in ourselves. So that's way out in 2026, but the process is such that things need to get out on the list quite a number of years before they get funded. So we wanted to make sure 2026, that roof is gonna be coming up on 20 years old. And those of you who've been on the board for a while know that it leaks. And has leaked, almost since the day we opened, and so it's been patched a lot. So we wanted to make sure we got that on. The estimate we have is right around $232,000 for that. The carpet replacements, the boiler replacement, and those things are things that facilities maintenance would probably eventually fall under a facilities maintenance project. But clearly that involves the library as well. And it's usually up to us to make some of those requests to make sure they get in the pipeline, so.
So, we have a motion to approve the CIP request for fiscal year 2021 to 2026.
So moved with the update
Okay, thank you.
of 213.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion and a second to approve the CIP request for fiscal year 2021 to 2026. Is there any questions? Discussion?
I have a quick question
Sure.
on the roof. Has somebody looked at it? And I know you said it's been patched, and they feel comfortable that they can keep patching it.
Well, I think they were,
Well, just
yeah,
it
we're-
can be safe, because
yeah,
I've
I mean,
seen
we're
roofs
also looking
collapse
for a,
that have been overly
That's a
patched.
covered.
for more of a condition report as well.
Yeah.
We'd asked for that. We need to get this in today to city, so our big priority was give us a ballpark figure, because this is out in 2026. By the time 2026 rolls around, we're looking at that budget, we'll need to be much more specific about the cost, and probably we'll spend some engineering money the previous year to really get an idea of what that cost is. So, mostly they've been patching in, I think, small areas.
Yeah, they would normally tell you if they thought it
Yeah.
was a concern,
Yeah. So,
as long as they don't feel it's a concern.
Rotating in that good, not fast.
Um,
Books get all wet.
And I've been forgetting to ask Maggie, do you have any questions about the CIP budget?
No, sounds good to me.
Thank you.
So just in terms of process then, so once all the requests are submitted, they all go onto one big giant spreadsheet, and then representatives from every department get together to explain what their project is, so that everybody kind of understands what things are. And then 2021 is, of course, the fiscal year that's of most concern, because that one has to balance. So there might have been projects that last year for the fiscal 20 budget were out in fiscal 2021 with the assumption they were going to fund this year. Well, something could have happened in the meantime, the cost could have gone up, the expected revenues could be down, the expected revenues could be up. So there's all those adjustments that get made. And so a project that we thought was, citywide was going to be funded in 2021 might get pushed out a year. And then after 2021 is balanced, then move on to all the other years. And there's usually a little more flex the further out you go, but they try to, staff tries to make sure it's balanced, and then that gets presented to council so that they can take a look at and see if it's meeting their priorities as the final decision makers for the city. So that's just the process that we go through.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call for the vote on the motion to approve the CIP request for fiscal years 2021 through 2026. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next item under new business is a motion to approve the library programming policy. We talked about this at our last meeting. Happy with that amended, I should say marked up policy is included. So we have a motion to approve the library programming policy. Malavika, thank you. Have a motion from Malavika. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Have a motion and a second to approve the library programming policy. Is there any discussion on the policy?
Is a revision just this italicized?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, and that was just to break that one long sentence up into three pieces.
Okay.
Great.
Yes. Okay, any other questions, discussion? Okay, not a call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the motion to approve the library policy, programming policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a motion to approve the library meeting room policy, which we also discussed at our last meeting. Is there any, whoops, may I have a motion to approve that policy? Was that a motion, Maggie?
Problems with the phone.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the use of meeting room policy?
I move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Is there a second? Thank you, Malavika. Okay, have a motion and a second to approve the library meeting room policy. Is there any discussion?
What was the strikeout of number 7 for Richmond? Just that they're not required to apply for that, or?
With the ADA?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Just
up to
the
each
nonprofit
individual
groups.
organization
Right.
to
Okay.
do what they want to do. So,
Okay.
if
Not
it's-
your responsibility, it's
Right.
their responsibility.
Right, right.
You're just providing the space.
And then I think, from their discussion last time, item 8 was also added in. I looked at a lot of meeting room policies from libraries across the state, and nobody really talks about their public forum, in libraries' public forum. So I thought it would be good to just add a very simple statement that says that organizations can only reserve and use designated meeting rooms for their groups, and that's basically saying the same thing. So,
Yeah, so you can't pick a
More
spot and
simple.
reserve.
Yeah.
more simple language, yeah.
Any further discussion on the policy, the meeting, use of public meeting rooms? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the library meeting room policy, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Old business, the last meeting brought up this and recalled some of the discussion we previously had about it and asked folks to let me know if they had any experiences from other boards or commissions they might serve on as far as how they're done there. Unfortunately, I didn't hear from anybody, although I did get one piece of information or one suggestion that had to do with the difficulty I mentioned that may be involved with having a succession through the executive committee. In other words, the vice president being the president-elect and the secretary being the vice president-elect. The problem with that I saw being that you really have to start off with a brand-new secretary being an officer in order to have enough term left to ever become the president. Amy suggested, well, you could just do it with the president and vice president. So that may be workable. So I'll bring this up again with the executive committee, and I guess we'll decide where to go. If anybody does have any suggestions, please let me know. Okay. Next item is our closed session to evaluate the performance of the library director. We have a motion to go into closed session.
I move the board hold a closed session under chapter 21.5.I of the open meetings law to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual has requested a closed session.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Let's see.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you. And Amy has submitted a request for the meeting to be, the evaluation to be held in closed session. So we have that. To go into a closed session, we need to have a roll call vote. So I will take that for this motion to go into closed session. Judy, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Matt?
Yes.
Malavika?
Yes.
Okay, Craig?
Yes.
And Amanda?
Yes.
And Maggie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And my vote is yes. Okay, so the vote is unanimous. That takes care of that. And we are now in closed session.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, we're back in open session now after having closed session for evaluation of the library director. We have completed that, and now that we're in open session, we will vote on the evaluation that we discussed in closed session. So if I can have a motion to approve the evaluation of the library director, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Malavika. And is there a second? Thank you, Amanda. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the evaluation of the library director. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And let me see. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. We have a motion to adjourn.
Just have something to share with you, Amy, is you were talking to, you shared about the motor registration thing that we were doing, and I know this is an expensive proposition, just wanted to share. We did something at the library at Ambrose, and had envelopes for them, and somebody bankrolled us the stamps to get one.
Oh, okay.
But that's what I said, this is expensive, this is an expensive proposition, but I just wanted to share.
Okay.
That's what we did, like,
Okay.
put it in a minute, so, yeah.
Just mentioned too, I'll be sending the trustees marked up version of the bylaws that we talked about before, and didn't want to try to squeeze it in today, and there was too much other stuff to read, so that'll be coming. And also, don't forget about the Halloween parade.
Yes, yes.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Malavika, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Judy. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you, Maggie, for dialing in or viewing in. We're now adjourned.
Is anyone from the board going and dressing like an alien?
Oh, no.